The person who is afraid of love. A painful truth that could cost you years of your life. There are some lessons we should have been taught much earlier in life. Not just how to solve equations. Not just how to memorize historical dates. Not just how to calculate the area of a triangle. But how to recognize the kinds of people who can enter our lives, make us love them with all our hearts, and then unknowingly turn the most beautiful years of our lives into a long journey of confusion, waiting, and disappointment. What is astonishing is that modern civilization has achieved extraordinary things. Human beings can send spacecraft millions of miles into space. We can decode DNA. We can communicate with someone on the other side of the world through a device that fits in our pocket. Yet when it comes to love, many of us still walk into it like children wandering through the dark. We are taught how to earn money, we are taught how to compete, we are taught how to succeed. But very few people ever teach us how to recognize someone who is not truly capable of sustaining a healthy relationship. And that lack of understanding has cost countless people years of their lives. Perhaps you have met someone like this. At first, they seemed like a miracle. They appeared at exactly the moment when you felt most alone. They said everything you had always wanted to hear. They made you feel seen, understood, appreciated. They remembered the small details about you, your favorite food, your childhood stories. The insecurities you rarely shared with anyone. The important dates that even close friends sometimes forgot. When you were with them, you felt special. You felt understood in a way you had never experienced before. Every message made your heart race. Every late-night conversation felt meaningful. Every moment together left you wanting more. Everything seemed too good to be true, too perfect, too right. And slowly, you began to believe. You believed that this time would be different. You believed that you had finally found your person. You started imagining a future together, trips you would take, dreams you would build, a life you would share. But then something strange began to happen, not suddenly, not dramatically. Not in a way that would make you walk away immediately. It happened slowly, quietly. Like a cold breeze slipping through a crack in the door. At first, the messages became less frequent. Then the phone calls became shorter, plans were cancelled, promises were postponed. The affection seemed weaker than before. The warmth in their eyes began to fade. You could sense that something was changing. But you could not quite explain what it was. Whenever you asked, they insisted everything was fine. Whenever you expressed concern, they told you that you were overthinking. Whenever you tried to have a serious conversation, they changed the subject. Or worse, they became irritated. You started wondering whether you had done something wrong. Whether you were being too sensitive. Whether you were expecting too much. This is the point where many people become trapped. Because they still remember the wonderful person from the beginning. They believe that if they try harder, that version of their partner will return. If they love more, if they become more patient. If they sacrifice a little more. If they understand a little better. Then everything will go back to the way it was. But sometimes the truth is completely different. The problem is not you. The problem is that the other person is fighting a fear they do not fully understand themselves. Researchers who study attachment and relationships have discovered that some people grow up carrying an unconscious belief that intimacy is dangerous. That the closer they become to someone, the more vulnerable they will be. That the more they depend on another person, the greater the chance they will eventually be hurt. These people do not necessarily hate love. In fact, they often long for it. They want connection, they want companionship. They want affection just as much as anyone else. But when love begins to become real, when emotional intimacy deepens, something inside them starts to panic. This is one of the greatest paradoxes of human relationships. They want love. Yet they fear what love requires. They want connection, yet they fear dependence. They want to be understood. Yet they fear being fully sane. And so every time a relationship takes a step forward, they take a step back, not because they are evil. Not because they are intentionally manipulative. But because their nervous system learned long ago that distance equals safety. If a child grows up surrounded by broken promises, emotional neglect, rejection, or inconsistency, That child may unconsciously develop a conclusion that follows them into adulthood. Don't trust too much. Don't need anyone too much. Don't let people get too close. Those beliefs rarely disappear with age. They simply change their form. As children, they become tears. As adults, they become unfinished relationships. Perhaps the most painful thing about loving someone who is afraid of love is not that they leave. It is that they remain somewhere in between, never fully staying, yet never fully leaving. They give you enough hope to keep going, but not enough commitment to feel secure. They move closer, then they pull away, they make you trust them. Then they make you doubt everything. They give you moments of incredible beauty, then leave you alone with enormous emptiness. You become like a traveler crossing a desert, occasionally seeing water in the distance, but never truly reaching it. The tragedy is that this uncertainty often becomes addictive, not because it feels good, but because it feels unpredictable. Human beings are strangely vulnerable to intermittent rewards. Psychologists have long understood that uncertain rewards can create stronger attachments than consistent ones. It is the same principle that keeps gamblers pulling the lever of a slot machine. They never know when the next reward will arrive. And because they never know, they keep trying. Something similar can happen in unhealthy relationships. The occasional moments of affection become powerful enough to keep someone emotionally invested. A warm message after weeks of distance. A beautiful weekend after months of confusion. A promise of change after countless disappointments. Each small sign of hope feels like proof that the relationship can still be saved, and so people stay, they wait. They explain away behavior that hurts them. They become increasingly focused on potential rather than reality. Instead of asking, what is this relationship giving me today? They ask, what might this relationship become someday? That question has trapped many people for years, sometimes decades. Because potential is one of the most seductive illusions in human life. We fall in love not only with who someone is. We fall in love with who we believe they could become. We imagine future versions of them, future conversations, future commitments, future happiness. And without realizing it, we begin having a relationship with an idea rather than with the person standing in front of us. The reality becomes less important than the fantasy. The facts become less important than the hope. And hope, while beautiful, can sometimes become dangerous. There comes a point when hope stops helping us move forward and starts keeping us trapped. This is why one of the most powerful observations about human relationships came from Maya Angelou, who famously said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." At first glance, those words may seem harsh. But they are not about judgment, they are about clarity. If someone consistently shows you that they avoid emotional intimacy, believe them. If someone repeatedly withdraws whenever a relationship becomes serious, believe them. If someone continually leaves you confused about where you stand, believe them. Not because people cannot change, people absolutely can change. But meaningful change requires awareness, responsibility, and effort. And none of those things can be supplied by another person. No amount of love can do another person's inner work for them. This is one of the most painful truths many people eventually learn. You can support someone's healing. You can encourage their growth, you can stand beside them. But you cannot heal them on their behalf. You cannot force self-awareness. You cannot create emotional readiness where it does not yet exist. And perhaps most importantly, you cannot love someone into becoming a different person. Many people spend years trying. They become relationship detectives, they analyze every message, every silence, every emotional shift, they read books, watch videos, study attachment styles, examine childhood wounds, search endlessly for explanations. And while understanding can be valuable, it often becomes a distraction from a more important question: is this relationship actually healthy for me? Because understanding why someone hurts you does not make the hurt disappear. Understanding why someone pulls away does not create intimacy. Understanding trauma does not automatically create commitment. The explanation is not the solution. A person may have perfectly understandable reasons for their behavior, Their pain may be real, their fears may be real, their wounds may be real. But your suffering is real too, and your life matters too. Sometimes compassionate people forget this. They become so focused on understanding the struggles of another person that they stop protecting themselves. They offer endless patience, endless forgiveness, endless understanding. Yet very little of those things are directed inward. At some point, compassion must include yourself. At some point, your own emotional well-being deserves consideration. Because a healthy relationship should not require you to abandon yourself. It should not require constant anxiety. It should not require endless guessing. It should not require living in a permanent state of emotional uncertainty. A mature relationship is not perfect. Every couple experiences conflict. Every couple experiences disappointment. Every couple faces challenges. But there is a profound difference between a relationship facing difficulties and a relationship trapped in fear. In the first, two people move toward the problem together. In the second, one person constantly chases while the other constantly retreats. And no relationship can remain balanced when only one person is doing the emotional work. Eventually exhaustion arrives, eventually resentment grows. Eventually the person doing all the chasing begins to lose themselves. They stop asking what they need. They stop asking what makes them happy. Their entire emotional world begins revolving around whether the other person will move closer or further away. Their happiness becomes dependent on someone else's unpredictability, and that is not love, that is emotional captivity. Real love feels different. Not because it is always exciting. Not because it is always passionate, but because it is safe. There is a quietness to healthy love, a steadiness, a reliability. It does not constantly leave you questioning your worth. It does not make you wonder every morning whether the relationship still exists. It does not require you to decode hidden meanings. It does not force you to earn affection over and over again. Healthy love allows you to rest, it allows you to breathe. It allows you to focus on living rather than constantly worrying. Ironically, many people mistake chaos for passion. They mistake emotional turbulence for depth. They mistake unpredictability for romance. Movies, novels, and popular culture often reinforce this confusion. We are told that love must be dramatic, that it must involve endless obstacles, that suffering proves devotion, that intensity proves significance. But reality often tells a different story. The healthiest relationships are usually not the most dramatic ones, they are often the quietest, the least theatrical, the least confusing. They are built not on emotional extremes but on trust, consistency, mutual effort, and emotional safety. Perhaps this is why so many people overlook them. We have become accustomed to believing that if something feels difficult, it must be meaningful. But difficulty alone does not create value. Sometimes difficulty is simply difficulty. Sometimes confusion is simply confusion. And sometimes a person who keeps moving away is not presenting you with a challenge to overcome. They are showing you a reality you need to accept. There is tremendous courage in accepting reality. Far more courage than endlessly chasing hope. Acceptance means looking clearly at what is, not what could be, not what might be, not what you wish it were, but what it actually is. And once you see reality clearly, difficult decisions often become surprisingly simple, painful perhaps, but simple. You stop asking how to make someone love you. You start asking whether they are capable of loving you in the way you deserve. You stop asking how long you should wait. You start asking why you believe your life should be spent waiting. You stop asking how to earn commitment. You start asking why commitment must be earned at all. And slowly something changes. You begin to return to yourself. You remember that your value does not depend on another person's ability to recognize it. You remember that love is not supposed to feel like a never-ending audition. You remember that your life is precious, that your years are precious, that your heart is precious. And that these things should not be endlessly sacrificed in pursuit of someone else's unresolved fears. This does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean becoming cynical. It does not mean giving up on love, quite the opposite. It means respecting love enough to recognize what it truly is. Love is not constant uncertainty. Love is not endless waiting. Love is not emotional starvation, interrupted by occasional rewards. Love is two people choosing each other, again and again, not perfectly, but willingly, not fearlessly, but honestly. Not because they have no wounds, but because they refuse to let those wounds control the relationship. In the end, perhaps the most important lesson is this. Do not spend the most valuable years of your life trying to convince someone to stay who is always preparing to leave. Love with all your heart. Offer kindness, offer patience, offer understanding. But do not offer your entire future to someone who cannot meet you halfway. Because life is too short to build a home inside uncertainty. And real love, when it finally arrives, rarely feels like a battle. It feels like coming home. It feels like peace. It feels like two people walking toward each other instead of one person endlessly chasing the other. And that may be the simplest definition of love we will ever need.